While running the Peachtree Road Race this past July 4th with some of my clergy colleagues, including all of those on the Bema today, I gained new appreciation for our morning commute. I live near Lenox Mall, and although I don't generally take Peachtree into Temple, I still felt as though I was walking the distance I would normally do by car. What takes 10 to 20 minutes by car took 90 minutes on foot, and made me grateful that I have a car to help me go farther than I could walking. Otherwise, you might never see me outside of the perimeter. It is interesting to think about all the ways we are able to go beyond our human capacities. Cars and trains, boats and airplanes allow us to travel our world. Telephones, then email, chat, and cell phones give us the ability to talk to people around the world, including people we have never met. Internet and computers streamline searches. I have several books on my shelf that have been made obsolete by computers, and I imagine several in this room have a set of encyclopedia they may never open again. And with the grocery store and many a new kitchen appliance, we have the ability to cook faster and more creatively. Whether it is the food processor, the microwave, the fast food industry, or the frozen food aisle, we are able to feed ourselves in so many ways, much faster than if we were still working over an open flame. Medicine has evolved to preempt many diseases. Imagine a world without vaccinations, x-rays, and surgery. There is even a movement known as transhumanism, which seeks to reduce the fundamental limitations in the human condition, such as disease and aging, through technological advances, including artificial intelligence and computers. Problems and new circumstances encourage technological innovations. As we grow as a society, we have discovered new ways to be faster, more efficient, and better at what we need and want to do, whether at work, school, or home. I would suggest that this focus on going beyond our human capacity allows us to compartmentalize our humanity in many ways. We have responses and solutions for so many problems, for so many of our human limitations, that when we find something unsolvable or untreatable, it is upsetting. Is there no other way, we wonder, as our human limits surface? We cannot go back in time to replay that last point of the game. I'm sorry, we say, as we realize again that we can only be in one place at a time. This is the best we can do, the doctor tells us. In these moments when we realize we are human, when we come face to face with emotions we cannot subdue, physical limits we cannot control or change, it is especially difficult for us to accept. To say, I'm only human, somehow is an admission of failure, of limits, of shortcomings. Yom Kippur, this Day of Atonement, is a day about our humanness. We devote this day to recounting our mistakes and transgressions before God. Through the traditional rituals of fasting, wearing white, avoiding fragrances and cosmetics, not bathing, and abstaining from sexual relations, we take away many of the things that represent and sustain life. The tradition says that these rituals bring us as close to death as possible, leaving us vulnerable and exposed on this Day of Atonement before God. Facing our mortality is powerful in any country or culture. And for example, in South Korea, there is a fake-your-own-funeral seminar for corporate retreats. After writing their eulogies, choosing the music for their funerals, and lying in a coffin with the lid shut, people emerge ready to embrace each new day. As they are reminded of their mortality, these participants come back ready to make each day more fulfilling. They work harder, and they try to strengthen their relationships. In a way, in a less morbid way, Yom Kippur does the same thing. It reminds us that we are human, we are mortal, we are flawed, and we can be forgiven. Yom Kippur unifies us as a community because we all are here together as humans, connecting to a basic common thread, our humanity and our human limitations. Judaism is a religion that asks us to embrace and accept our humanity not only on Yom Kippur. A story is told in the Midrash by our rabbis regarding the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara, the inclination to do good and the inclination to do evil. You'd think that it might be better to remove the evil inclination, but the rabbi said that when the Yetzer Hara was removed from the world, many things happened. No one engaged in business. No one got married. No one had children. No one built a house. The lesson of this story is that the human qualities that can be destructive, greed, sexual attraction, competition, are necessary in small amounts to keep the world going. Perfection is not the goal. Holiness is, achieved in part by channeling these dual inclinations in useful and productive ways. Along this idea of holiness, the rabbis of the Talmud discuss the role of angels compared to the role of humans. While the angels are nearer to God, the rabbis say that they cannot praise God until we humans praise God first. And even more, a righteous person is higher than an angel. Again, we learn the ideal is not to avoid being human, rather to be holy, the best possible people we can be. God, too, has given some human qualities in the Torah and tradition, without suggesting that God is human, as the rabbis would say, kivyachol, as if. The Torah describes God getting angry and frustrated by humans, along with forgiving and granting mercy. In a way, it gives us permission to experience these emotions, the key being how we channel these emotions into action. Moses had the most human relationship with God. From the burning bush through the exodus from Egypt and then wandering through the desert, Moses was able to have conversations with God in a very unique way. At a certain point after the golden calf incident, Moses asks God if he can see God's face. It is a desire for intimacy, one that God refuses. Instead, Moses is allowed to see God's back from a cleft in the rock. Although we learn from this encounter that God is perhaps not really meant to be seen, later in the Torah it says that Moses knew God panim el panim, face to face. Although Moses never saw God's face, the intimacy of their communications, the relationship they built, was described as face to face. This idea of panim el panim is an important concept for us humans too. Like with God in our society today, it seems that we are willing to be kind of loose with our definition of face to face. After all, 6.1 billion voice minutes are used each day, and almost 5 billion text messages are sent each day around the world. Even more impressive, 2.8 million emails are sent every second. All of this communication, and we do not see the other person's face during the interaction, unless you are texting someone across the table at a staff meeting, and then the rudeness cancels it out. In many cases, people who send emails and texts or make phone calls would say they are communicating intimate information, continuing important relationships, even if they are not literally face to face. The question becomes whether it is enough. I imagine in this sanctuary, since so few of us are actually from Atlanta, that we have many Skype users. Skype, with over 500 million registered users, allows us to video conference online, to see the person with whom we are speaking. Micah and I used it every day during the summer when I was in Alaska and he was in Jerusalem, and it was amazing to see his face from half a world away. After those Skype conferences, the phone was nothing. In the newest iPhone, there is a dual camera feature that allows its users to Skype. Clearly, the demand for the capability to see another person has caught on, as we realize voices and texts without faces isn't enough. How many of us have been offended or offended others through email? An email that is abrupt because of those tiny, tiny keys on the BlackBerry is interpreted as unfeeling by the recipient. An "I love you, sweetie" email sent to the wrong person. When we are working without faces, we lose the opportunity to add a human element to our communication. Our eyes, our smiles, and other facial expressions indicate our emotions and how well we are listening. When someone can see us, it's a lot harder to multitask during the conversation, and I'm sure some of you know what I mean.